Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the first session of the Digital Food Series 2023. My name is Tiffany Cui. I'm the moderator of the Digital Food Series. I'm a sustainability strategist, consultant, and entrepreneur. Other than co-hosting the digital food platform, I'm the managing partner at the Vertical Farm Institute, where we focus on developing sustainable ultra short chain food system for cities. Normally, I'm working from the Netherlands. Today, I'm calling in from Vienna at our Vienna office. So I didn't have my green screen to have the background, the digital food with me. So I would like to also introduce our digital food team. I think Dix is featured already on the screen. Maybe you have to switch that, Anushka. Dick Veerman and also Anushka at Foodlog. We are the digital food team behind this series. This series started 2 years ago, exactly. Actually, we started our first session exactly 2 years ago on today's same day. We started this series with the goal to connect technology, data, and strategy, and to connect people, ideas, and regions. So in our very first session, we started the series with a question of how will our agro-food supply chains and system transform in the face of accelerated digitization brought on by then the COVID-19 pandemic. 2 years on, luckily, I think, happily that the pandemic is a bit all behind our back. And I had the privilege in the past 2 years of hosting a wide range of experts and industry leaders from regulatory and certification bodies to multinational companies, food businesses, cooperatives, and to technology companies and startups. In this series from 2022 and the coming part, we will continue the user cases to address the key question, which is how do you unlock the true value of sustainability with data and digital transformation? So today we are very happy that we'll kick off our very first user case for 2023 with the user case of Bühler Group. Bühler Group is a supplier of equipment for food processing, including grain, feed, and advanced materials. So the company captures a large amount of data points during the production process, including from the origin to retail, for example, for commodities such as cocoa, grain, and so on. So we have today 2 speakers to introduce the user case. First one speaker is Edita Magas. She is the head of a food safety program at Bühler Group. She focuses on connecting technology with the customers, solving the concern, especially on food safety. And our second speaker is Fernando Santiago Caravilla. He is based in London, and he's working on developing blockchain solutions for supply chain management. So today, the user case will be focusing on how Bühler Group is developing data platform and using blockchain technology to create transparency in the food supply chain. So before we start, I would like to start with a poll question. In fact, this is the poll questions we asked also during our very first session about how the digital transformation will affect the agro-food chain. So in the first question today is, do you agree with the statement that the global food system needs and is ready to become truly digital in the next 3 to 5 years with disruptive technologies such as blockchain, AI, and robotization, which is what we are going to be talking about today? You can choose. And then, so I would like to hand off to our very first speaker, Edita. If you can switch on your microphone. Edita, hello, yeah.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for the introduction, Tiffany.
Yes, but what's your answer to the first question? Do you think the food system, or maybe from your case, Bühler Group is maybe already digital ready, or are you on your way?
That's a very good question, and also very wild term of digitalization. You know, when you say digitalization, some people can say AI. Some people can just say digitalization, digitalizing paper data, paper records. It's both digitalizations, both very important. But I think the food industry is really just starting this journey as compared to other industries. But we are already seeing a lot of benefits, and definitely the revolutions is coming, and there is already a lot of benefits. But I have to say, we are still not there yet, but on the right way to go.
Okay, so I will hand over the floor to you to tell us what is Bühler Group doing in this area of food safety and blockchain.
Very good, my pleasure. Now I'm just trying to share my presentation. I hope you can see it well.
Yeah, it's fine. Go ahead. Adita, you are muted again.
Apologies for that. So now I think you can hear me well and clear. As I mentioned, I will jump directly into it, as you already did a great introduction. I will tell you first how the presentation a little bit look like. So I will take the first part of the presentation and explain you a little bit more about Bühler, what we do, and how this relates also to digitalization and food safety. Then we talk a little bit more on about food safety and our solutions on that side. I think food safety, it's very important also from the sustainability perspective, where we also avoid contamination, avoid waste, and increase operational aspect of food processing. And further on, Fernando will take over to talk a little bit more about Bühler Dash network and digital certificates, which we are doing, and our sustainability solutions, how we do quantification of CO2, for example. So let's start on Bühler. And I'm sure, or I'm pretty sure, as you are not working with the food in the food manufacturing, you may not heard the name Bühler before. However, I'm sure also that you are in touch with products which are produced on Bühler technologies every day of your life. Every day, as we on our technologies, we produce many of products which are commodities which you are consume every single day. For example, breakfast cereals, flour, also biscuits or coffee. So there is a lot of food products we are making on our equipment. There is also a non-food part which we are having, where we produce machines for glass coatings, for example, or screen coatings, where we made paints and inks. But food business, it's a huge part of our business, and we play in many markets. And I have to say, where we play also big. So in milling solutions, for example, we would own 65% of the market, or wafer, or 60% in chocolate processing. Therefore, we have a quite large reach on the food industry in the markets where we are playing. What we do also, I mentioned machines, technologies, but we also do the whole plants. So here the digital aspects come quite handy and much more easier to implement, because if you design the plant from the scratch, the equipment, then it's much easier to implement also the digital solutions. It's easier to integrate sensors as well, and have the final outcome coming good. Which comes to the services part. So services also, it's something what we do for our customers mainly. where we especially bring a large amount of digital services on plant optimization, sustainability, and food safety. Where we also play a big role is education. It's not just internal education, but what we provide. For example, could be a milling school in Kenya, for not only for our customers, but for a general population who want to learn about milling. So a few numbers also, probably you are interested in, to put it into perspective. We are a global company in around 140 countries, with many application centers where we can test our technologies, also the digital services which we implement. So there are many production centers. And also important part, 5% of the turnover we would put for innovation. And that's definitely a large amount of money. Innovations not only are for the new R&D project, but for us, innovation, it comes with collaborations and partnerships. So this is the extreme emphasis we put on with our collaboration partners. And because also we cannot do everything alone, especially in the digital space where we come from the machinery background, we have a lot of partners who could support us and do solutions together with us. And of course, I have to mention also our purpose, how we are driven as a company. We consider economy, of course, nature and humanity in every aspect of our decisions. And nature, it's strongly embedded in our company DNA, where we have very strong sustainability goals for us as a company, but also we are committed to provide solutions to reduce environmental impact of our customers. And also humanity, that's coming from with people's health, people's well-being. So we want to contribute to that, of course, and that's why that's what brings me to the food safety solutions. And that's where I will talk now a little bit more about food safety. I want to show you first a few numbers. 1 in 10 people, it's still the number of people which become sick every year due to foodborne illnesses. 1 in 10, it's not a small number. It could be bacterial contamination or other contaminants. We still have many recalls of food because of the contamination. So that's the number from before pandemic, over 2,000. And each of these recall can cost on average $10 million US dollars. So again, it's huge health and economic impact for food processors. And then we are also faced with other challenges. We have energy crisis at the moment, and we know that 1/3 of global energy goes to the food processing, food production. And then we spend all this energy to waste 1/3 of this food, because we know that 1/3 of the food is wasted also. So that's something which is, of course, not working in our food production, food processing, food system. Then we have 1/3 of production time is spent on cleaning still. So again, that's very important, but can we reduce this and increase the productivity of the plant? These are the key questions, key challenges, and plenty of opportunities, especially now in the digital era, where it comes to optimizations and bringing the sustainability to the agenda. And if you are not a food safety profi, here I put a list of the typical food safety hazards. So when I'm talking about food safety, we are making sure we minimize or control contamination with these hazards, like bacteria, chemicals, foreign materials, pests, undeclared allergens, or some of unapproved ingredients or technologies. So when I talk about food safety solutions, these are only focused on these contaminants and reducing and avoiding them. And why it's important to Bühler, I already gave you a hint. with the first slide about Bühler as a company, we estimate that around 2 billion people every day consume food which is produced on our equipment. So it's quarter of world population eats food made on our equipment. That's a huge impact, impact for sustainability, but also huge impact for food safety. So if we do something wrong and we have contamination, some of these contaminants I mentioned, that's a very large negative impact. But if we do something for improvement and optimization, that's also a very large impact we can have. And also, especially that we cover a lot on the value chain. So really from the raw material handling until the final packing. And for food safety, as well as sustainability and digitalization, it's very important to connect these different parts of the value chain. I think that's only, it's clear that we only bring these benefits when we see the whole value chain and when we work on each step on the value chain, because then it doesn't help much if we only work on one step of this value chain. And from the food safety side, we can really bring technologies for preventing hazards or removal of hazards, but also the ones which create trust and transparency. So building this trust and transparency in the whole value chain. And before I go to the first example of the service we are having, I want to tell you also with the digitalization, a lot of effort has to be placed first, of course, on having access to data, on sorting this data, cleaning this data, analyzing the data, and then comes further this AI topics of artificial intelligence or control loops. And I think in the food industry, we are also in this stage, in a quite early stage, where first we are actually gaining visibility to the data and trying to analyze it. And some of the services I'm showing you now are really mainly focused on data analytics and having insights to the process and how we can use them for improvement for the customer. So the first one, you see just the screen here. I will explain you what the service is doing, what the digital solution is doing. It's called Replay. It's based on our central platform for digital services, Bühler Insights. And this service is actually taking data points from the whole process. It could be a feed plant or a meal plant, a flour milling plant, and visualize these data points in one view. So basically now you have a holistic approach, what is going on in a whole plant at the same time. It's at the same time, the data is analyzed, gathered and analyzed, and every month there is a report sent to the customer how to optimize the data, how to optimize the process. And for troubleshooting of the food safety incidents, that works quite good, because whenever something happens, let's say you have a positive sample of salmonella, you go back to around time where it happened, so you can go back in time and see and play basically what was happening in the process. And then you can very well see if there was some failure in a scale, if there was which silo was working, if there was a maintenance maybe done. And that very fast can help to pinpoint what could be the cause of the problem. So that's basically how it works. But here is one example what we did with this data analytics for in a feed plant for analyzing the scale accuracy. So we gather all the data and analyze the scales, how accurate they are. And we seen that for one scale, it was always overdosing. And overdosing, it's also an issue, a feed safety issue. You don't want to have too many vitamins or minerals in feed because can harm animals. And we've seen this overdosing always. And the interesting part was that it was only overdosing this scale when there was a combination of different processes. So, for example, when one particular silo was used or one particular feeder was used, that was only overdosing in these conditions. So we managed to optimize the process, change the setup, and in the end, of course, with many others on the background, many other analytics and improvement, we managed to increase by 5% the total OEE of the whole line and reduce the overdosing by 60%. And that's the values which we very often see for different of these application of data analytics and optimization. And we have these services running for over 50 customers now for different plans. The second one, which I want to show you, is around process monitoring. For the food safety, monitoring and recording the process, it's key because you need to prove that your critical processes are safe and they are always delivering certain conditions. And this is what we did with this service, which is upgrading nut roasters into actually trusted bacteria kill steps. Roasters were originally used not to kill bacteria, but to change taste. And we actually, then the industry found out that in nuts there is a lot of bacteria and there need to be a kill step implemented. So we wanted to use already existing thermal process, which is roaster, to also kill bacteria. But to do so, you have to have proof that it's actually killing bacteria in every single nut in every second of the production. So what we did put a lot of different sensors in the roasters. There were temperature sensors, belt speed sensors, because it's the belt roaster which uses hot air, bed depth sensors, and so on. And we managed to have a good picture what is going on actually in the roaster. But at the same time, we develop in a laboratory inactivation kinetics for Salmonella, because Salmonella is the main pathogen of concern for this process. So we developed this kinetics, put it into the software, and basically by incorporating the readings from the roaster in real time, we are able to, in real time, to calculate the expected log reduction of bacteria in this roaster. So it really brings a lot of transparency, what the roaster can do, and a lot of trust for the industry. Of course, further, we are analyzing this data and building further AI around it and improving the services. This is basically how the service looks like, where you see actually the total log reduction, total lethality of bacteria displayed in a view. And whenever this reduction drops below certain limits, let's say 4, there are actions to be taken. It could be reprocessing or changing the processing parameters. So basically making sure we don't waste the product. We do take some actions before it's wasted, and the product is safe. We also can aim for cleaning intervals based on the temperature readings as well, because if the temperature drops, we know the belt which drives the nuts it's clogged, and then it's time for cleaning. So we can have really this condition-based cleaning instead of having cleaning in a special intervals, but we don't know if the product is still safe or not. So really this service brought a lot of insights into the process, brought trust into the process, and proved that the product is not contaminated in the end after coming out of this process. So it's a lot around monitoring the critical parameters, alerting if something goes wrong, adjusting if it's necessary, but also reporting. So a reporting which could be given later for FDA or any other auditing bodies. So this was the second example of the food safety digital solutions. And now we go into the general transparency program of Bühler. So what we want to do, we want to build transparency in the whole value chain. And one is around equipment. So again, proving it works, giving the certificates of for the equipment. The second part is about product transparency and traceability, where we have traceability solutions for where the products go and where it came from. But also solutions to do the authentication of goods. So there is no avoiding fraud as well. And the third part is about transaction transparency. And this is really where all of the blockchain story also come to play. And also where Fernando is going to explain much more about it and show you the details about the solutions there. So that's the time where I can actually give over now to Fernando, and he can explain much more about it. So thank you for this part so far.
Thank you, Edita. So in our audience today, we also have familiar faces. I will call out Paul Brausman. He was actually at our very first session from Mobile Group. Yeah, Paul was waving. I'm also curious to invite Paul to give comments what has changed in the last 2 years, and also in learning from Bühler, which is your probably partner, but also competitor in certain areas. It'll be very interesting to learn what you think about the progress of the industry. So Paul, I'll come back to you to invite for comments, but if you want to say something already, please jump in. Welcome. Fernando, let's, before we introduce your part, let's see the poll question result. Yeah, so I think it's similar to 2 years ago. We can compare that whether the percentage of people strongly agree has changed in the last 2 years, whether about this statement, especially on the statement of being truly digital in the next 3 to 5 years. Because in the long run, I think we all agree that the digitization will only go on, but key question is within which time frame, which I know from Fernando during our preparation, you actually are quite have your reservation about this question, not? You think the industry is not ready in probably 10 years. So because as the industry practitioner of developing the solutions, you probably see a lot of challenges, especially in terms of sharing, collaboration, maybe also the regulatory. So so I'm looking forward to your part of the presentation in looking at how Bühler applies solution, but especially also the challenges.
Okay, thank you very much, Stephanie, for your introduction. I'm really happy and really glad to see the result of this poll, because I am quite not as optimistic as I could see in the result. No, I mean, I think we need this digitalization of the food industry. I'm not really sure if we are ready yet to get this full digitalization in the next 5 years. But anyway, we are trying, and we are trying really hard from Bühler to convince our partners in the food supply chains to take this road. I think it's the roles every single industry on the food industry has to take.
And you are transforming your role, right? So let me, before we move your part, let's have the second poll question. Okay. Anushka. So the second question is about roles, because actually as a traditional role as an equipment supplier, you are becoming the data analytics, the sensor expert, the dashboard development and technology specialist. So the question to this poll is whether digital transformation of the chains and networks, value chains, will fundamentally change the roles of various chain players. So that's a question that I hope you can maybe help us to understand in your thinking about in your presentation. So go ahead, please.
I will try to present my point of view on that question. Okay, let's share my screen and let's do this presentation. Can you see my screen? Empty screen, I assume, no?
Not yet.
Not yet. Now?
Also not. You have to share it, I think, better.
You are not able to share my screen. Yes, I have to press share to
that's good.
The screen. Let me remove all of you from here. Let me go to the slide where we should go. This is slide 23. Sorry for this. And here we are. Basically, as Stephanie said in the introduction, I work for Bühler. I work leading a project that is value chain transparency, where we are trying to understand how we can help the food industry and the food supply chain to bring this transparency and to try to reach this goal we have talked about. No, and this pools puts us in front of them. No, these challenges about digitalization, this challenge about if the roles have to change or not, and this kind of stuff. Let's start with a small introduction of the food industry. I mean, from my point of view and from Bühler's point of view, we are working in a supply chain, the food industry, the food value chain that we have to say is quite complex because there are many actors in the food supply chain. There are many intermediaries in the food supply chain that makes the food supply chain quite disaggregated. I mean, sometimes we have completely companies working in just one section of the supply chain where data are completely in silos, and when they don't share any kind of data between the different integrants of the supply chain. And when we are talking about visibility, many of the companies working in the food supply chain, they just know the name of their supply and the name of their clients. Moreover, upstreams and downstreams in the supply chain, sometimes it's quite difficult to find out what is happening or what is going on. And what's bringing all of this? This brings a lack of trust between the different participants and players in the supply chain, and as well a lack of trust in the end customer. Then, if we want to solve some of the issues that the food supply chain is facing at the moment, and we want to become a more sustainable industry, there is not option to collaborate between all of us. No? And in this collaboration, Bühler has set up, as Edita mentioned before, some goals. I mean, these goals is not for Bühler itself, Bühler industry, is for our client supply chain. No? As we are one of the food industry is one of the biggest emitters on the earth about different CO2, energy consumption, water consumption. Food industry consume the 70% of the water resources in the world at the moment. Waste, we unfortunately 30% of the production we spend resources to produce waste and energy. You know, we are a large consumer of energy. The goals that Bühler has set along with the SDG goals is that by 2030 we will be able to provide our clients with tools to reduce their energy, waste, and water by 50%. And for doing that, we don't have other options that have our tools ready by 2025. And since 2025 to 2030, try to implement with the different players in the food supply chain or try to reach these targets. No, basically, this would not be possible if we don't do this. If we do only this, we only do this in ourselves. I mean, Bühler itself will not be able to reach these goals. No, this is an effort that we consider the whole supply chain has to be involved in this. No, it's not possible to reach these ambitious goals without the collaboration and the synchronization of the different supply chains. Then, if we analyze how the flows in a supply chain works, usually a supply chain, basically we can divide a supply chain in three main flows, which is material flow, information flow, and financial flow. Material flow is really clear, is where the materials are transformed to the final product. Bühler have historically provided different equipment, different machinery to improve the efficiency levels, to reduce emissions, to improve productivity, basically, to improve yield on the supply chain. Financial is something about the payments and how the financial flows flow through the supply chain. We don't have much interest on being on that side, at least from the project managers. But one side we can have a huge impact at the moment is in the information flow. As mentioned before, many of the data in the food supply chain is completely in silos. That doesn't allow much demand, doesn't allow to match demand and supply and produce weight in different areas of the supply chain. But why is it so difficult to synchronize or to share information in the supply chain? Basically, the main reason is basic, no? I mean, we have a basic reason is that although material flows is a clear have a clear flow downstream in the supply chain, and financial flow usually is from the bottom part to the end part, to the original part, I mean upstream on the supply chain, information flow go everywhere in the supply chain. I mean, there is not any single direction where you can capture the information, and there are many communications between different integrants of the supply chain. Then, if we want to improve the productivity, reduce the impact of the food supply chain, we don't have another option that's to tackle this information. How we from Bühler try to tackle this information flow? Because basically we are testing new technologies to try to understand if there can be use on the food supply chain to improve or to achieve the goals we have. No? And one of that technologies is blockchain technology. From the department I work from, we have been testing for the last 4 years blockchain technology in different use cases. Now, our first step has been set up what we call Bühler Dash Network. The Bühler Dash Network is a platform, by the way, Dash means data sharing network. It's a platform that we provide to our clients to share data between the different integrants of a supply chain. Why we think we need to do that? Because I think it's quite important for us and to get this collaboration and synchronization in the supply chain to be able to break these data silos we already have in the supply chain. Now, to be able to remove from the supply chain many redundant activities we have at the moment, where we are record data in different databases in different tiers on the supply chain. Then we have used blockchain technology, where we back up our platform, and we bring a platform where we allow to the whole supply chain to participate in this platform and track and trace some of the products our clients are producing. As Edita mentioned, sorry to repeat this slide, but I think it's quite important. In the part of the supply chain where we are able to supply machinery, we are able to capture that data and bring that data to the supply chain, to the blockchain or the Bühler Dash network. That this is quite important for us because we cover a lot of stage on the supply chain where our machines are involved. But this is not about only our machines. I mean, we have to be able to connect other machines, other competitors' machines. We have to be able to connect other information systems from the different steps in the supply chain. Otherwise, we're going to get fully and truly synchronization and collaboration of the supply chain. Then, for that, as mentioned before, we have set up the Bühler Dash network. This is a screenshot of our Bühler Dash network. And the main goals of our Bühler Dash network are part of support these targets we have on the food supply chain with our client, for reduction of 50% of our impact. We have as the Bühler Dash network has other goals. Now, I think through the Bühler Dash network, we will be able to improve of course, value chain digitalization we have talked about before in this talk, remove data silos, that is quite important, and provide full visibility to some data records that are needs, like for example, food safety, that is a need to share different data records, to share these records with different integrants of the supply chain, even the regulator. I mean, the regulator be able to have a clear vision of the different quality parameters of some products and the different issues or recalls that is happening on the market, and as well to provide again trust on the food supply chain, and to provide this trust to the industry. This cannot be understood if we don't understand that competition is not anymore between companies. I mean, it's not anymore between corporations. Competition, I think nowadays we can see clearly in the news, competition is about supply chains. I mean, if our supply chain fails, most probably our company fails. I mean, so we will be able to reach all these goals if we are able to work as only one supply chain in all the integrants of the supply chain. For this, to put in proof this and to prove these theories we built around the Bühler-Dash network, we have designed 2 use cases. We have put one of them in production, and another way is in the last stage of testing to be put in production. The first use case we have developed that is currently working in production is a use case in the milling industry. Bühler is leader on the flour industry. We supply our clients with different machinery in the flour industry, but we supply them with whole plants, whole mills. The flour industry, if we analyze the flour industry and the different quality records that we have in the flour industry, we have developed our first use case around what is called in the flour industry the certificate of analysis. Basically, the certificate of analysis is a quality record of the flour after mill on the mill that received the bakery, with the different qualities and characteristics of the flour. When we talk about characteristics of the flour, we talk about protein, water absorption, star damage of the flour. That is a standard data. It's a data standard in the milling industry. I mean, any single delivery that arrives to a bakery has to bring these certificates with it. Otherwise, cannot be accepted. Currently, how the milling industry is working with this certificate is a quite manual way. Although Bühler and the bakeries the millers and the bakeries have really advanced machinery. When we are talking about information flow, it's like we are going back 20 years on this. I mean, basically, as you can see in this workflow, I hope it can be understand. Imagine we have two main sides here let me take my last point. We have the miller side and the bakery side. This is a bakery and this is the miller. When the miller mill a batch of flour or a batch of wheat and they got flour, basically they analyze the flour on their lab, they issue a report and they send this report to the bakery side. This bakery side do not trust that report, and they usually ask to the miller for a sample of the flour to test themselves this flour on the lab. And after that, they make a decision to deliver that flour or to reject it. That process you can see here, although everything happens, the material flow happens in really advanced machinery, or equipment in the miller side, all this process you can see is manual in the lab. This is through emails, and even there is a physical part of flour, batch of flour that is sending to the lab in the bakery. You are talking about 3 to 4 days to get the approval, a lot of communications in the middle, and a lot of phone calls and discussions. But what we are seeing, as you can see, to deliver a single piece of flour, and we are talking about a tank of 25 tons on a truck, basically they need to issue first to deliver that batch of flour 5 different documents. First of all is the acceptance of the milling, that batch of flour. After that, the bakery release another acceptance because they analyze in the lab. There is no trust between both of them, although they have been working for the last 20 years together. After that, there is a delivery note that is compulsory, but that is in paper, still in paper, still a pen signature here at the bottom that the delivery has been received, and finally the certificate of analysis that is attached to every delivery. We think from Bühler, with the equipment we have, that we have connected machines with MRI sensors where we are able to know the quality of the flour in any single moment or completely live and in the production, that we think combining different technologies that Bühler has and with the Bühler-Dash network on the top, that means to combining the machines, our sensors, our manufacturing execution system, Bühler Insights that previously Edita talk about, we are able to share that data on the Bühler-Dash network, and that data can be shared in real time with the bakery. And there is no need anymore to take manual samples, to send samples one way by a courier, to send emails and to send different communication. No? Then what we have implemented, as mentioned before, is to share these data directly from our machine in the Bühler Dash network that is baked for blockchain to make sure that the data has not been modified from the Bühler sensors that are certified for an external partner. And we have made the bakery and the miller agree on that readings. That makes the removal of all this paperwork and removal of 3 days of waiting time to approve and deliver a milling release. That is the first application of we have found in blockchain. We have gone from different paper-based documents, manual analysis, to just one single digital certificate of analysis based on the Bühler Dash network. What are the benefits? I think we have incountable benefits. Incountable benefits for this small piece of software we have implemented. Why such a small? I mean, I would say when we are talking about blockchain projects, sometimes we can read on the news now, huge, trying to reach huge impact. No, I think, or we think from Bühler that we have to start, when we are talking about blockchain and data sharing, we have to start for the basics. We have to take the basics data sharing that already exists on the food supply chain, in this case, in the milling industry between a milling and a bakery, and we have digitalized that records. We have backed that records in blockchain technology back to make sure that there is not any modification between our sensors and the records that are on the Bühler Dash network, and bring it and share it between the miller and the bakery. So basic, so easy, such a small scope, and it has taken for us almost 2 years. The reason for that is basically data sharing is not easy in the food industry. I mean, but I think we are on the track. Once we create this environment of trust between different stakeholders that we have already created between a miller and a bakery, we can bank much more opportunities. We can put after that any other data we think there is a value, or they think there is a value. No? Our customer and their client, they think there is a value. We can talk about CO2 quantification data, we can talk about financial data, or we can talk about stocks. No, like a managing the supply chain, like a one stock. No, everyone have their own stock. No. This is the benefits we have seen. I mean, there are many traceability. We are able to get full traceability in case of a recall. We are able to identify in just 1 second, what is the batch, what is the problem, and where are that batch in that moment between supply chain. We are able to digitalize information flow, automation. We have able to remove completely manual sampling and manual analysis on the labs, bringing all the data from our IoT devices on the mill. We have removed communications that sometimes seems like a quite basic stuff, but we, after having an analysis on the milling industry, we have realized that every 8 tons that a mill produce, they produce a piece of communication with their client. That means an email, that means a certificate, that means something that someone, a human, has to help. And as well, we have increase the storage because we have reduced the inventory time and speed the order capacity. That is in terms of our digital certificate of analysis. And later on, we can discuss some of the challenges we have faced and some of the barriers we have overcome. Another application that we just finished the testing last year, and we are planning to go in production this first quarter, between the first quarter and the second quarter of the year in different industries, is the CO2 quantification. This is a joint project between the Value Chain Transparency Project and a department that is CO2 quantification department within Bühler. Basically, within Bühler, we have a department that support our clients to quantify their emissions in the supply chain. We are able to measure the different emissions in the different stages of a value chain. We have, at the moment, analyzed basically 2-3 value chains. One of them is rice value chain, another one is chocolate value chain. And we have bring the different assessments from the sign assessment, the site assessment, the different scope 1, 2, and 3 footprint that we have on that product, and the product assessment for that. All of that, our methodology is certified by SGS. And what we have done in collaboration with CO2 quantification service, that they have done all this job, we have provided then the Bühler Dash network to share all this data between the different integrants of the supply chain. For example, that's an example of a quantification for the cocoa industry. We have been able to quantify the emissions of the footprint, the CO2 footprint of the cocoa, of that chocolate bar until the cocoa beans. We are able to take this information to put it on our Bühler Dash network and share this information with the different stakeholders in the supply chain and even with the customer. With the customer, we have done this. This is an analysis for the cocoa, and I want to show you what we have done this or applied this on the Bühler Dash network that is for the rice industry. We have the CO2 quantification department have quantified, analyzed the CO2 emissions for a ton of rice in the different seasons, in the different fields, and in the different farms. What we have done is to bring that information to the blockchain, to the Bühler Dash network, and share this information through the value chain. So we have information from the farm. After the farm, we are going to the storage and logistics facilities where we are able to capture the CO2 emissions. After that goes to a Bühler plant that is quite easy. We just have to bring data from our devices there. Even we can discern between the type of electricity they are consuming, and anytime, we can put CO2 quantification if the electricity is coming from renewable energy, so it's coming from the grid. And finally, we are able to quantify the logistic emissions to the distribution center of the retailer. That makes us much easier to show the CO2 quantifications to the end customer. The end customer, the customer who is going to the supermarket to buy a packet or 1 kilogram of rice. We think there is a value there. We think that in 5-10 years, one of the decisions that end customers have to do when they go to the supermarket is to understand a part of the price of the product. They will make their decisions according to the emissions of each product they buy. We think there is a value there, so we are working on that direction. And all of this is not without challenge. We can go in the discussion about the main challenge we have implementing this kind of solutions in the different supply chains. One question I usually have to answer in all these talks is where to start. For me, it's clear the use case we develop in the milling industry. We have to start to understanding the ecosystem and the data sharing analysis. That don't try to reinvent the wheel. Just put it on blockchain, the data that is already shared between partners. And from that foundation, we can build other applications. But the first approach shouldn't be more than the data standards they have. Always, I would advise supply chain means collaboration. Supply chain means different stakeholders. That means the approach should be done in a consortium approach. It's not Bühler throwing up a solution in the food supply chain. No, it's Bühler collaborating with 2-3 stakeholders in the supply chain, building with them a solution, try to understand the benefits on each part of the supply chain and bringing together a solution, a collaborative solution from all of them. No? And after that, that is development work that can be helped. And this is a little bit how we have done this. No? We start with awareness education. Awareness education means that within Bühler at some points, someone start to explore blockchain technology. And since then, we speak with our customers, we speak with the customer and suppliers of our customers. We set up a small consortium. We align goals and objectives, decided what to do. As you can see, not a world-changing project, just to share quality data that is already shared on paper or in email. We put it on the blockchain, and from then it's time to scale it up. That is where we are now. Yeah, and that's it. That is Bühler. I think we could provide a good picture of what we do and what we are doing on the blockchain space.
Thank you, Fernando. Excellent presentation. Great cases. So great to also that you focus on the real application of the, and is indeed how do you build user cases. I will actually I think we have audience for a lot of questions, but immediately I want to respond to your.
Can you stop sharing my screen, because I cannot stop it from my laptop, right? Let me try it another way.
Have to stop sharing.
Yeah.
I think, or Anushka.
Okay,
Yeah,
perfect. Thank you. I can come back to the meeting. I don't know why I couldn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
sorry.
in the actually, again, 2 years ago, we started this series with the MOBA case. I already introduced Paul earlier. And during the presentation, MOBA as one of the main player in the egg chain. So, and Paul at that time, Paul can also ask you to join in, had indicated that, for example, in the egg chain, MOBA basically can have all the data points from where the egg comes in from the grower all the way down to retailer. Yeah. But they have a challenge, meaning that they don't have the data from the feed industry, meaning what happened to the chicken when they are, for example, consuming feed, or what that kind of impact. So, and since in your case, you have the data actually all the way down to the feed. So my question is, without looking at a very big chain, let's just, in addition to the rice chain and cocoa chain, can you, for example, work with MOBA as collaborator on the value chain, or are you already starting the initiative to build a user case for the egg chain? So I leave that discussion to you and Paul.
Well, we can do what we can do in our industry. Basically, our industry, I mean, we are a main equipment provider in the feed industry. We have many data points on the feed industry. We just have to find the use case and to find basically the participants of the use case. I mean, the feed processors that want to share that data with another chains. I mean, when we are talking about data points, we are talking Bühler machines have a lot of data points, but that data is from our clients. It's not our data. Mm-hmm. I mean, what we have to convince is our clients, or we have to provide a value to our clients to share that data with other participants. I mean, that is, for me, is one of the key challenge and barriers that blockchain has at the moment. Understand the value that this provides to the different participants where they join a blockchain platform. I mean, joining a blockchain platform, from our point of view, is just not share data. I mean, I am a feed provider. Yes, I put my feed data on the chain, but what is my benefit for that?
Yes, you just said also competition is no longer about between companies, but between value chains. So question, Paul, please jump in. Do you see a potential, for example, for MOBA to work with Bühler, both as equipment suppliers and building data platforms? Is there a case that you can create value on this egg chain, for example? What are the challenges, if not?
First question is, can you hear me? So
yes.
My audio. Yes. Okay. So good afternoon, everybody. My name is Paul. I'm from the company MOBA, and we are creating egg grading and packing equipment. It's a niche market. So you started off maybe being a competitor to Bühler. Well, I can definitely confirm that that is not the case. We are in total different segments. And also, I would like Edita and Fernando for a very nice presentation, very challenging. To your question, yes, I can imagine if there would be a case that one of our customers would be sharing equipment from our company and sharing equipment from Bühler. And I don't know if they are, for instance, making feed mills or controlling equipment for feed mills for animal food, but if that is the case, I can imagine it. But my question to Fernando would be, because that is what we highlighted 2 years ago. We have a lot of data points, and we are continuously progressing with our program. That's for sure. But I indicated that the big question is who is going to be in the lead for the total production chain. And as it sounds like in many aspects, because we are only a small fly on the wall compared to the size of Bühler, But nevertheless, in our little business, we are quite an important player. And but the question is, who is going to own that? And that's my question to Fernando. You say it can only be a platform as a collaborative solution. It's not something one company does on its own. But at the same time, you call it the Bühler Dash network, something you created and you put on the market. So my question is, if you can, in a blockchain network, if you can talk about ownership, but does Bühler considers themselves an owner of the Dash network or a creator or just a participant?
No, I mean, let's define a little bit here. It depends of the approach of the hat I have to put on it. I mean, we have created the Bühler Dash network. The Bühler Dash network is just a platform where we are able to share data, to connect our machines, and to bring data to the Bühler Dash network. On the top of the Bühler Dash network, we build two use cases. I mean, we facilitate a platform that even is not a blockchain platform. It's a software platform that is backed by a blockchain as a service, because we don't think it's necessary to build a blockchain network. We just create a platform where we are able to share data and back that data with a blockchain as a service, like we use one commercial service on blockchain. But the use cases on the top of that platform, yes, have to be collaborative. It's not possible to do this, to bring to the milling industry a solution just from Bühler and throw it on the table and say, let's use that. You can do that. I mean, you can do that. I mean, when we are talking about supply chain, I mean, you can find several examples on the blockchain. No? One of the most prominent examples, I think, is, for example, Walmart. You can see blockchain solution from Walmart where they are able to track a mango from, I don't know, in Costa Rica to a shelf in the United States. That can be done by Walmart because Walmart have a really dominant position in their supply chain. I mean, to get the stakeholders or their suppliers in their supply chain, most probably Walmart what did is a call, say, since tomorrow you have to input the data on this platform. Fine. We got a blockchain platform, we got a traceability, but supply chain don't work like that usually because there is not a main player. What Bühler is trying to do is, yes, we are the owner of the platform without any doubt. We have developed the platform, the Bühler Dash network, but we want to collaborate with industry, with the consortium to bring the different use cases. Each use case is a different, let's say, business or product we have to offer. Bühler is continuing what they have done in the machinery industry, that we provide equipment and we provide technology. We consider ourselves a technology company. In this case, instead of providing a piece of equipment, we provide a piece of technology, a piece of digital or software that we allow our customers to share data. I don't know if I have answered your question.
Yeah. It's a clear answer. And I think one of the major differences in our challenges is the size of the companies. We are in a chain where other players are much bigger than we are, and where volumes are bigger. But at the same time, our equipment is actually creating the data point. So you could say in a whole flow, we are the measuring device of the total efficiency. So that makes it important. So. But it certainly helps this thought. Thank you for explaining.
Welcome.
Thank you, Paul. I would also like to invite other participants. So please just raise your hand. In the meantime, Manushka can also show us the result of the poll question. If you have do you agree with this, Fernando? That you think it will fundamentally change the roles? For example, in your case of the rice, the mill user case, when you get rid of the 5 paper certificate, what does it change to the different players, the certifiers?
I think I am the only one who has pressed disagree on the poll.
So you don't think it will fundamentally change?
I mean, the role basically is supply food. Don't confuse this. I mean, the purpose and the goal of a food supply chain is provide food. I mean, people don't eat data.
But what about the certifiers, the regulators?
Yes, certifiers can change. I mean, if we are talking about the information flow of a supply chain, of the food supply chain, yes, can fundamentally change everything. because fundamentally change how the people, the relations between the different integrants of the supply chain. Change how the transactions are records in a supply chain, change the visibility, change the traceability of the supply chain, change the form of trust between different companies. That completely change. But what is the core of a food supply chain?
Yes.
Supply food on your plate? No.
Okay, because in the when we talk about value chain players, it's not just the producing of the food in the value chain. Yeah, so that's also we can't go down.
The core is the food.
Yes, understand. Any questions, comments? We can also go to our last poll question. We'll think about it. Anushka, because Paul also mentioned the topic we discussed last time. We can ask the last question is indeed, who should take the lead in the digital development of agri-food systems? It was the question that Paul referred to as well. Big companies like you, third one, leading industry player, basically has the capital, the equipment, the sensors, and now the blockchain solutions to bring everyone together. Or would be more the regulators, certifiers. So these are the players in the value chain. So what do you think, Paul? Sorry, Fernando. Are you taking the lead actually in integrating and facilitating and, let's say, spearheading the transformation, or do you see other parties, especially the regulatory bodies or other big ones, retailers, should take the lead? Basically, the one that is the driving this.
I think, as mentioned in my talk, is completely a collaborative effort between all of us. I mean, we, as a technology company, we can provide the technology we can take the lead, providing a platform for this, is what we have done. Mm-hmm. But we cannot take any lead sharing data.
Who might be able to speed it up this?
These things is when we are talking about open innovation, when we are talking about collaborative models. I think when we are talking about blockchain, that means a network, that means a supply chain. That is the case to apply this. Correct me, Edita.
Yes, I would like to add something here. Definitely, I think the companies like us have a big potential because, as we say, there is a technology, there is a resources, there is a input from us. But I think the biggest power and biggest potential have really retailers. It has proven so since many years also how it has been done also from the food safety side. We see that governmental bodies, they don't have so much power, definitely, as retailers do. So the lead could have potentially come from there as well. If more players start leading, that will be faster developments because there will be also more competitions as well, and there people will like to be faster in that sense. So I would expect also retailers doing their parts in there.
Okay, thanks. So retailers connecting, let's say, the consumer demand in the end to driving
exactly.
Yeah. Okay,
exactly.
Great.
Because in the end, we do it for consumers, and the retailers are as close as possible to the consumer.
Yes, we have a lot of questions, so I will ask you to join one by one. I think Patricia, please go ahead. Switch on your microphone.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so actually I've joined this meetup before, and this is, I think, my second or third time.
Welcome.
So thank you for hosting this. And I think it's really interesting for us because we make a blockchain for supply chains. And then that you're specialized in chocolate because we got like a big subsidy for that chain. So we're actually developing it at the moment. I was just really curious to have maybe a further conversation. But we're also hosting Web3 for Food on Coca tomorrow. If you have any time, it would be great to join for our first introduction. And I especially like that you said you don't like to reinvent the wheel. and that you want to collaborate. And we totally agree. I think that's the only way to go if you really want to make change in supply chains. So I'm just happy that a big company like you guys are picking this up. So great.
Great. Thanks for the comment, Patricia.
Thank you.
I would like to invite Anna-Marie from Vlisteren. Maybe you can introduce yourself and your question or comment.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. And thank you for the presentations this afternoon. I had a question for Edita, because you said you're spending 5% of your of the budget or the turnover on innovation. And maybe you could tell us a bit more about this field of food safety. What are the trends or the big things happening there now already or in the near future? And we cannot hear you. Or maybe it's me.
Yeah.
I have my microphone on. Oh, maybe this will help. Yes.
Yeah. Perfect.
Yes. So I can tell you in general some areas where we focus currently for innovation, and then follow on the food safety part. For us, very important on the sustainability agenda and how we help to decrease the environmental footprint for the customers, but also how we help to feed the population in increasing a number of people. So we focus a lot on alternative proteins, and where we develop different technologies to make alternatives to meat with extrusion, and we use different ingredients where we can extract better the proteins, like also algae, insects, and so on. So that's very important aspects of our work. From the food safety part, and of course all the digital parts, but digitalization is just a tool to bring these solutions to place, so to feed the world, to make it more sustainable and our customers more profitable. So a lot about optimization of the processes and developing services. You mentioned also how the industry will change. As we were originally steel makers, now we're suddenly turning to the digital company. So it's already a hint that the industry will change in general with this digitalization. And from the food safety side, the trends are also around making the food safety system smarter. So like FDA in the US, it's putting a lot of effort on traceability and smart food safety systems. It's a lot about climate change as well and how this affects the food safety, because when we have warmer temperatures, there will be much more hazards influencing us. There is more opportunities for bacteria to grow, for the water to be contaminated, for toxin to grow in crops. So there are mycotoxins which grow with the climate change. So there is definitely a huge focus. And in general, from the trend side, on the food safety side, we have much more sensitive tools now. And we have like whole genome sequencing where we can trace exactly where these bacteria came from which factory. Before we didn't know that. And now with these tools and very sensitive detection methods, we know much more and we need to act on that and we cannot ignore it. So that's the big changes and trends in the food industry from the food safety side. So that's maybe, I don't want to take much more time, but if you want to know a little bit more on our innovation focus, then please get in touch as well. We can explore this more.
Great, thanks. Very great to know also indeed more detail on what's happening when technologies start to get smarter and regulators need to be smarter as well. They cannot just fall behind. A question from, I think, Will. Are you still there? Or Georgina? Can switch on your microphone. Yeah, hello.
Hey, Tiffany. Hello.
Yes.
Thank you again for one really nice webinar this time, and also the presenters for the information. Having worked as a sustainability strategist with various players from the food supply chain, we've seen a lot of times, you have the big players and you have the smaller players. And then what we try as strategists a lot of time to help to achieve is to break those big silos and to increase trust along the supply chain. So my question actually to everyone is like more to food for thought, is like, when you have a centralized platform that acts as a collaborative solution, and that requires to use the same equipment from the same supplier, and the platform itself, it's also the owner of the data. Do we actually solve the problem of working in silos, or we just rename it, recreating in a better version, of course? But I'm just thinking, how can we provide solutions where the big players can actually work and collaborate in a plug and play, plug in mentality with smaller players from across the supply chain? These players could be different equipment providers, or data platforms, blockchain, digital technologies providers. So how can we deal with this and move more into a shared ownership of data mentality, instead of clear ownership of data and equipment, and only provide solutions of collaborative from one provider? So I'm just thinking, loud this time. So anyone who wants to jump in, please.
Thanks for the question. So maybe our speakers can give some thoughts on this topic, and others also welcome to join us. So our previous speakers, Wilbert, I have a participant DSM, also our case on the sustainer cell. So yeah, it will be interesting to hear your comments. Please, Fernando or Edita.
Edita, you want to go first, or shall I go first?
I can go first, just to give a short reply to that. Also, we don't want this to be also only for our equipment solutions. That's definitely not the case. It's just easier for us to have access to this data, because, and we need to start from that. And the next step is really to have to connect everything, or to have also competitors' equipment, and we don't need to see it in this case as a competitors. We also can collaborate and partner in that, and we do a lot of partnerships with our competitors actually on that specific solutions, because this is how industry changed. We would never do that 5 years ago, but now we really do partnerships with competitors to bring the larger benefits, because then we all benefit from it. So that's one answer to that. We try, but then everyone needs to be on board. We cannot pull this always. We try also to pull, but then the smaller players needs to be on board, and I don't know how else they can be brought on board. Only maybe retailers can more force this, but I don't know, Fernando, maybe you have some more inputs how they can be brought on board, because.
Thank you very much. Completely agree with you, Edita. Just to clarify, Georgina, our platform, yes, we have done this with Bühler IoT system, Bühler plants, Bühler clients, because it's much more easier for us. I mean, I work, just to clarify a little bit, I work for a department from Bühler that is called corporate technology. I don't work for a business unit. Basically, what we do in corporate technology is we test technology to understand if there is a value in that technology for us. Then the first way to test a technology is with our clients, but we are able to connect any single machine as long as they have an API, any single machine to the Bühler Dash network. That is the goal. It's not to restrict to this. Completely agree with you. If if blockchain is removing small intermediaries and bringing a big one to the table, what's the point? No?
Yeah, exactly. I was just thinking loud. I mean,
no. Yes, that is happening.
You have as a starting point when you own the equipment, you provide the equipment, and you provide also the data platform. But then having worked with different players from the supply chain, I really feel the struggle of them, especially for the technology providers, that they have to deal with suppliers that they have equipment from another provider, then a retailer have another provider, and how to combine this and it's an obstacle.
Yeah, absolutely agree with you. But that is the overall goal, to overcome that barriers, to connect different equipment. I mean, usually in technologies now, we have to differentiate here technology and mindsets.
Yeah.
Technology is usually this is part. Although looks quite difficult from outside, this is part. Develop a blockchain platform is not difficult. Convince people to put data on the blockchain platform is the difficult part.
Yes, actually, in the last 2 years, with talking to all different kind of players in the value chain, from retailers to regulators to small company, you actually see that everybody is taking initiatives to join hands and share data. So certainly there should be a stronger will to collect data. At least we know a lot better than when we started 2 years ago. We see that there's a lot of initiatives happening, and that maybe just needs a good user case, a few more good user cases to show that it can really create value for everybody.
Yeah,
right?
I think in all of this, following Edita comments, I think it's key to bring the retailers on all of this. As Edita said, the retailers, at least in the UK, I mean, yes, we have a regulation body here, a regulatory body, like any single country, European Union or else. But who's set the standards on the food supply chain is a retailer.
Yes. So our session is, it's a very, very good session, very in-depth, and we really learned a lot. And we're actually almost coming to an end. Before I can ask Patricia the last comment, but I'd like to also announce for our next session in a month, where we will be talking to a startup technology company, the Pets drone company, where they are developing digital machine vision solutions as sustainable way to kill moth in greenhouses, and how that can apply to moth-free chocolate. So that's very interesting for you, because you work in the chocolate chain, and we want to bring also indeed looking at the cross-sectoral solutions that develop, for example, in this case for horticulture, can be applied to, for example, feed industry. And that data is showing the less pesticide being used, that is safer for moth-free chocolate. Then maybe that's another case we can enhance your cocoa chain. So welcome everybody to join, and indeed to think louder and broader and look at building actual innovative user cases. We have a final minute. So Patricia, if you still have a last question, you're welcome to join.
Yeah, it was actually to an add up to Georgina's question and comment as well. I think that if you look at the supply chains, and also looking at bigger companies who are picking up the initiatives to develop that blockchain and to try to make it fair and better supply chains out there, I do think, because it was in the poll, that is it like CMEs and other companies who should pick that up and really innovate, or should it come from regulators? I think we are at a point now that you see just what you said. You have all kinds of initiatives. You have a lot of solutions. If you can combine them, it would be so good. But then the people like the retailers or stuff like that who are not really keen on sharing their data, they don't feel the push to really share that data. So you will always be missing that part of the food supply chain. So I think it would be really helpful to speed this up if regulators would say, we need fair supply chains, and this and this and this is needed. And then we get that push from above. And then the retailers need to share their data if they want to keep existing or keep selling, for example. So I think that's a really big thing. And one big difference, what we had, because we were also thinking about the problem that people don't want to share data with one company. So actually we made it different non-profit bodies. So every supply chain has their own non-profit body who owns the blockchain. So we don't own it, for example. So that's a different approach that we had. That was it, I guess. So.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that. Very interesting.
Yes.
Thanks.
I think without further questions, comments, we will have to conclude today's session. Thank you again, Fernando and Adita. Great presentation, really well prepared and great cases, and for everybody's comment and participation. So see you next time.